Hello and welcome to Drishti IAS News. My name is Neil Parmar, and today the news under discussion is that import duty has been slashed on edible oils. So, the form of our discussion would be, we'll discuss the news, that why it was necessary to reduce the import duty and reduce the agricultural cess from the edible oils. We'll discuss the present scenario, that what is the status of edible oils in the Indian economy. We'll discuss the import status because most of the edible oils in India are imported. We'll discuss the reasons behind the rising prices of edible oils, not only nationally, but why the prices have been rising internationally. We'll also discuss the step which has been taken to control the rising prices in India and the impact of these steps not only on the market or the consumers, but more importantly also on the farmers who grow these oilseeds crops. So, after that we'll discuss the other initiatives which target long-term mitigation of the fluctuations in the prices of oilseeds. We'll reach a conclusion regarding this step taken by the government, as well as keeping this step in context of the overall food security of the India, and then you will have a question to practice your answer writing on. So, let's move on. There was this news, just custom duty. Custom duty means the duty which is imposed on any trade which is done across the borders. So, if a thing is being imported, there would be import duty. If a thing is being exported outside the country, there would be export duty. So, that is the idea behind customs, the broad idea behind custom duty. It has been waived on edible oil imports. So, the manifestation would be clear that the idea is to reduce the prices which have increased or have risen substantially over the last few months. So, what is the present scenario regarding edible oils in India? Now, India and China, they are the world's biggest consumer of edible oil. Our cuisines, our festivals, they are centered around the food which has so much of oil content, and India is second only to China in terms of consumption of edible oil, and India is the world's biggest importer of edible oil. We have a huge dependency on imports, and international prices are running high, and that is why the prices in India are also seeing this influence. There are certain domestic reasons as well that why the prices are high. We'll discuss them gradually. Out of the oil which is out of all the edible oil which is consumed in India, palm oil was basically a recent addition to this oil basket of India. Nobody till 90s used it, but since 90s it has grown exponentially, and now 45% of the overall consumed oil in India for edible purposes is palm oil. If you ever look at the favorite packet of snacks which you often buy from the local confectionery, you will among the ingredients you will come across palm oil. So, it is the most preferred oil for frying these dishes, mithais, etc. It is not closely actually, it is followed by soybean oil, then followed by mustard oil. Mustard oil, which once reigned supreme, is reduced to third position in India as of now. And then there are sunflower oil, cottonseed oil, groundnut oil, and so on and so forth. So, this is the present scenario of the oil consumption, edible oil consumption in India. Let us have a look at the other statistics regarding edible oil and its impact on Indian economy. So, out of 21 million tons of edible oil which India consumes annually, we import around 15 million ton, a significant amount, and that is why India is the largest importer of edible oils. All the European countries of the European Union put together, India consumes more oil than them. So, that is enough, that comparison is enough to draw your attention to the high amount of oil we consume as a nation. Then, where it is imported from? So, it is imported from Malaysia, Brazil, Argentina, Indonesia. Malaysia and Indonesia together are the world's biggest exporter of palm oil, which is the major edible oil consumed in India. So, this is the import scenario. In 90s, almost from 1989 to 97, 98, India briefly achieved, not so brief though, India briefly achieved self-sufficiency in edible oil production. But since then, the demand has risen exponentially, but the supply has been lagging behind, and that is why again we are dependent on imports. And these imports come at a steep price. About 40% of the agricultural import bill comprises of these edible oils bill, and it makes up to 3% of India's total import bill. So there is a heavy bill for these imports. Now, what are the reasons behind these rising prices of edible oils? One, across the world we are seeing that edible oils are also being used for producing renewable energy, and that is why edible oils are shifting from food basket to fuel basket. That is why their demand has risen exponentially, but the supply has been more or less stagnant, and that is why their prices are rising. Especially, there has been thrust on soyabean oil to be used as a renewable source for energy, and that is why it is again contributing to rising prices of edible oils. Now, China, which is also among the world's largest consumers, it is heavily buying these edible oils due to its domestic needs as well as for making energy. So again, that is also contributing to global high prices of edible oil. Then we discussed that Malaysia is one of the countries which has very high edible oil production, particularly palm oil production. But that palm oil production has been put under a scanner by so many countries due to their labor issues. And of late, there are news that those labor issues, that labor unrest is also contributing to lower palm oil production from Malaysia, and hence overall global palm oil price rise. Also, the impact of La Nina on palm and soya producing areas. Now, what is La Nina? We know broadly that this is a weather phenomena which intensifies monsoon, right? So, when monsoon is intensified, the harvest cycle of oil seeds, it increases. So, the supply becomes slower, it becomes difficult, and since for last few years La Nina has been very dominant, we have seen lower harvest of oil seeds and hence rise in global oil seeds and oil prices, edible oil prices. Some people said that it was on account of the adverse comments made by Malaysia on domestic issues of India. Others point out that India wants to become Atmanirbhar in the refining capacity of these edible oils. That is why export duties have been raised. Moving on further. Now, import duties have been slashed on edible oils. Why? Because the government sees this step as a shortcut to immediately reduce the rising prices of edible oils, especially since the festive season is on, elections are going to come. So, these are going to have ramifications on the Indian economy as well as the electoral prospects of the ruling regime. So, that is why what steps government has taken, that the basic custom duty has been abolished, and the agri cess which was imposed on these crops, that has also been slashed. Apart from these two steps, that is removing the custom duty and bringing down agricultural cess, the center has also authorized the states to impose a stock limit on oil seeds so that the fluctuation which is prevalent in the market on account of fluctuation in the international market as well, that can be mitigated to an extent. So, these were the three steps. Now, how these steps are going to impact the prices? Let us have a look. Experts have pointed out that there won't be any drastic reduction immediately on the prices of edible oil. Why? Because one, these steps were already anticipated. This is actually fifth time basically, when India has cut down its import duty on oil seeds. So, market was already anticipating it, and the prices have already adjusted to this step, this anticipation. So, there won't be any drastic reduction after these steps. Why? Also, because international prices are anyway high. Experts have pointed out, since the government took this step, there was anticipation in international markets that the Indian demand for import, because custom duties have been slashed, so the demands will increase. So the prices have already rose further, and since the prices are already high in the market, there won't be any drastic reduction in the oil prices in India. Also, chances of immediate improvement of the supplies are slim. We found that there are certain bottlenecks which are impacting the price of oil seeds and price of edible oil in India. So those bottlenecks, be it labor issues in Malaysia, be it excessive buying by China, these reasons are not going to go very soon, and that is why the chances of immediate reduction in prices are very slim. Also, all of these steps at most will contribute to improvement in supplies till upcoming December and January. So that will be the impact on prices, right? But what will be the impact of these steps on farmers? First, the mandi prices of all major oil seeds are going to be affected adversely. Why? Because this is the time of harvest when the government has taken this step. Now, the farmer who undertook the production of these oil seeds, he or she undertook this crop only because she was anticipating a better price for her crop. But since the government is aiming to reduce the prices and prices are expected to come down gradually, the farmer is not going to get the expected prices at the mandis. So it is going to have an adverse impact on farmers. Secondly, it will be a kind of double whammy for the farmers. Why? Because the kind of monsoon we had this year, the extended monsoon, so it already delayed the harvest and the production was impacted due to these rains. Secondly, now the prices are going to come down. So this will be a double whammy for the farmers. So this will be the impact of these steps on the farmers. But the hands of the governments are also tied. At the same time, we have to look that government has undertaken several other initiatives which take aim at the long-term view regarding the edible oils and the India. What? Government has taken several steps to boost domestic production. For example, under the Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana, this Yojana was launched way back in 2007, and then it came under a new avatar as Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana Raftar scheme. Under that scheme, oil palm area expansion is being undertaken so as to increase the domestic production of oil seeds and hence the edible oil. Also, government has increased the minimum support prices of oilseed crops so as to give some comfort to the farmer who is going to produce oilseeds. Then, government has undertaken steps to create buffer stocks of oilseeds because oilseeds of late have been subject to too much fluctuation in the domestic as well as international market. So, buffer stocks will be created so that no one can profiteer on that rising or fluctuating prices. Economy as well as the consumers can be saved from that fluctuation at least for an ample amount of time. So that is why creation of buffer stocks for oil seeds. Then cluster demonstration of oil seed crops. What is cluster demonstration? So basically, India has tried to encourage its farmers to take up oil seed production, but one needs to demonstrate it to the farmers that the production will take this much investment and then the production will yield this much. So this demonstration is called cluster demonstration of the production of oil seeds in the farm that has been undertaken by the government to convince farmers to take up oil seed production so that India can become self-reliant or at least increase its domestic production of oil seeds. And then recently there was a national mission on edible oil palm, to raise the domestic production of palm oil by 300%, 3 times by 25-26, that is within next 4-5 years. So these were the steps which have been taken by the government, keeping the long-term view in picture, keeping the food security of India in picture, keeping the high import bill which India is subjected to due to reliance on imports for its edible oil needs. Based on all this discussion, let's try to reach a conclusion regarding the recent step of custom duty slashing or reduction in agricultural cess undertaken by government. So the conclusion is that over past few years, several national missions have been launched to reduce the import dependency of oilseeds. That is a long-term view. That is, these are the long-term steps, several long-term steps we discussed, which government is undertaking. However, at the same time, the frequent market interventions, they are usually seen as the options that would backfire in the long term. Why? Because farmers will be discouraged. Once farmers sow the crops anticipating certain kinds of prices for their crops, but these market interventions slash those hopes, and that is why farmers won't be encouraged to take up oilseed production, and if they won't be encouraged, India will continue to foot the high import bill of oilseeds as well as edible oils. So there is a need for continuity in prices. For example, MSP has been raised. Such kinds of step in the long term should be prioritized over such short-term interventions so that the farmers are encouraged to take up oilseed production and these crops in their farm cycle. And also there is an urgent need to increase domestic production as is being done by various interventions like the national mission which has been launched, like cluster demonstrations which are done. So these are the steps which should be taken, unlike the market interventions which the present step symbolizes. However, there is a logic behind the present intervention, but we saw that the effect is going to be very less, and also it is going to backfire in the long run. We should keep that in mind. Based on all this discussion, there is a question for you that in the context of rising edible oil prices in India, discuss the steps taken to tackle this issue and the ramifications on overall food security of India. Try practicing your answer writing on this question. We'll see you in next episode.